Can a person beat depression by just eating fish? Welcome to the Overcome Depression podcast. The tools you learn here can make depression a part of your past, allow healing regardless of your present circumstances, and offer hope for your future. I am your host, Jennifer Stirling-Campbell. Can a person beat depression by just eating fish? Believe it or not, that was the case for me. I talk about this in my How to Beat Depression introduction video if you want to go back and listen to that story. But absolutely, this was the beginning of my journey in overcoming depression. It is what got me off of the Prozac that I was taking, and I never looked back. So why and how could eating fish make you less depressed? Interestingly enough, Dr. Amen, at least I believe it was him, said that 93% of Americans are deficient in omega-3 fatty acids. That is huge when you consider how many people in this country in particular struggle with depression. I've seen studies that suggest it's anywhere from 20% to 80%. I don't know what the real number is. The reason I'm mentioning this very early on in the program is because eating fish takes time to get in your system to make a difference. Basically 3 months. And I did read an article about this years ago that confirmed my experience, but I wasn't able to find it. But through my experience and the experience of others, it does seem to take 3 months of consistently eating fish 3 days a week to start having an effect on your systems and your brain. And it has a calming effect. It tends to make people just feel more able to think, more relaxed. People have traditionally taken fish oil to help their brain, to help them think better. Parents give fish oil to their kids for this reason. I took fish oil in an effort to overcome depression years ago because I heard it was good for you and that it might help with depression. It didn't do a thing for me, but I think it's because I didn't take enough and because I didn't take it long enough. Some people don't like fish. It's very hard to get someone who hates fish to eat fish. If that is you, I would highly recommend getting a fish oil supplement, if you're not opposed to the economical, or if you're not vegan, some vegans might be opposed to this as well. There are vegan omega-3 supplements out there. I can't recommend them personally because I don't know firsthand. I've never taken them, but it might be something to try. And if you're willing to try this and let me know how it works for you, I would love to pass your experience on to others so that I can recommend that product in the future. If you are not opposed to fish, I highly recommend salmon. It's probably the cleanest. You can do research as to what fish are better or worse in terms of the environment and as well as toxicity, heavy metals, and so forth. It is a thing. However, it is just so critical to overcoming depression that I feel that it's important to implement into your diet. Tuna once a week is a pretty good option. Even canned tuna is pretty good. I would not recommend any farmed fish. Why? Because they're grain-fed, which means that the omega-6 over the omega-3 ratio is not what it needs to be to help your brain. We want less of the omega-6. We want more of the omega-3. So wild-caught is going to be key here. I would also avoid bottom feeders, possibly catfish, shrimp, oysters, which oysters and shrimp, debatable if you can call those a fish, but just throwing that out there. Food is food, but I wouldn't eat these every single week, is all I'm saying. Swordfish is probably another one you want to avoid. They tend to be high in mercury. And you can look online and find lists of fish that are typically better or worse in terms of heavy metals and so forth. If you're going to do fish oil, I would at least double the dose and take it every single day. You also want to make sure it's a high quality fish oil. The price tag does speak. If it's a higher price, it's probably a better oil. You can tell if you can smell the oil and it smells fishy, it's rancid and it doesn't taste as good. If you smell the oil and it doesn't smell like much at all, then that's probably a good fish oil. Ironically, I like to buy the fish oil in bottles and just pour myself a teaspoon or a tablespoon of it because I feel like a better deal. And I just keep it in my fridge. Not only do fish have the omega-3s, they also have B vitamins, magnesium, vitamin D, calcium, and protein, phosphorus, And they're a great source of minerals like iron, zinc, iodine, magnesium, and potassium. Potassium is one of those really awesome, is that a vitamin or mineral? I'm not sure, but potassium is a very calming substance, which is why I used to eat bananas before all of my races, because it helps keep your muscles more relaxed, it keeps them from cramping up. I will also add that breaded fish probably isn't the way to go. There's a lot of those omega-6 fatty acids in the breaded fishes that kind of negates the point of eating the fish. But if that's the only thing you can get yourself to eat, then by all means, maybe just don't get the catfish variety. Again, this will take at least 3 months for you to start feeling a difference, so please be consistent. If you're doing the fish oil, I would recommend a Desbio liposomal B supplement and their vitamin D, vitamin K supplement as well, because this will help you get kind of the whole range of things that you will need to feed your system what a fish would normally give you. There is a study, at least one, if not more, but one that I will link in the description that shows a correlation between eating fish and lowered cases of depression, which I think is pretty cool. I didn't even know these studies existed. I'm not sure if they did when I figured this out, but I'm really glad that I did. And I wish more people knew about it because it's so easy. I will also link several fish recipes below in the description, as well as in the workbook. Please do download the workbook if you haven't already. You can see everything organized, challenges that I offer, and it'll help kind of keep you on track and motivated to keep going with this program. And something I want to say is that, honestly, I don't eat fish 3 days a week anymore. However, when I first started feeling a difference from eating fish 3 days a week, I had to be massively religious about it because I was eating the standard American diet, which is pretty awful, and most people are on that diet. I would venture to say if you're depressed, you're probably eating this way. Not 100%, but it's amazing that even eating as poorly as I did back then, the fish alone was able to give my brain and my body what it needed to no longer need Prozac anymore. That's pretty incredible. So that's why I encourage people to start here and then progressively lose other things and replace them with others in their diet that will further help them to feel better and to thrive. The reason I don't necessarily need fish 3 days a week anymore is because I feel like I'm getting a lot more healthy fats in my diet and other nutrients in my diet that I wasn't necessarily getting before. Because everything I put in my mouth, I pretty much look at and say, is this going to provide me with nutritional value? And if it doesn't, then I try to stay away from it. I want to pretty much put everything into my body and treat it like I'm supplementing. like I could put my meal in a little pill and say, is that a pill I want to supplement with? Shortly after learning that fish was what could get me off of the medication I was taking, I was so excited. And so I started learning everything I could about how I could further heal and how I could feel better and how I could heal these other ailments I had and just everything. I wanted to know everything. And so as I learned, I came across some information about sugar, which is another really big one. I was talking to a friend the other day. She grew up in Mexico, and she said that as a child, she doesn't think she had sugar at all until she was probably 9 years old. And her dad would bring her like one candy from the market down the street. They rarely have sugar in some of these third world countries, and they have different issues. And I'm not saying Mexico's a third world country, but I'm just saying that people who aren't necessarily living our lifestyle that we do in America aren't exposed to sugar as children like our kids are here. My son is 2, and I'm working very, very, very hard to keep him away from sugar in all forms unless it's raw honey or fruit and possibly stevia. But I hope that by giving him that foundation, that if I can keep it away from him up till he's 5 years old is my goal, that his system won't even crave it or want it. That's my hope. We'll see. It's an experiment in progress. But it's actually necessary for them not even to be exposed to it at all, because if they get a little but not a lot, their body's still going to crave it. So most of us in this country are highly addicted to sugar. I realized this when I was reading about it, but also when I got pretty sick. My body was really struggling. I was tired all the time, chronic fatigue, didn't feel good, and then I started getting yeast infections. and that just would not go away. I tried to do all the natural stuff. My grandmother had used drugs, Western medicine drugs, to tackle the urinary tract and then yeast infections that she had, one after the other. It just seemed like she was always having one or the other constantly. And she really, really struggled. And I knew this about her. So when I was struggling, I knew that I didn't want to go to Western medicine to fix this particular problem, because for me, I knew what had happened to my grandmother and that nothing had changed. And genetically, I would probably end up like her if I went and did antibiotics. So I tried natural remedies and nothing was working. It wouldn't go away. And I started doing more research and realized that I was going to have to do a very comprehensive cleanse that could take months or even a year to heal my body. And when I learned what I was going to have to do, I cried, because I didn't even know it yet. I had a general idea of what it was going to take. But when I gave up sugar and did a very restrictive diet that was designed to starve the yeast of sugar, any sugar whatsoever, I felt like I was dying, because the yeast in your body are dying and they've been with you a really long time. They're a living thing and you feel like I felt like I was dying. It was crazy. And the emotional turmoil, the exhaustion, the cravings, the things that I was feeling. I've never had an addiction to a chemical in terms of drugs, but my symptoms resembled withdrawal symptoms, as if I was coming off of a drug. Come to realize that sugar is very close in chemical compound to cocaine, and is actually significantly more addictive than cocaine. Now, it's not as damaging as cocaine to your brain and so forth, so I'm not comparing it in that way, but it still does affect our mind. It's a stimulant, and it's highly, highly addictive. When I went off sugar cold turkey, it's probably one of the hardest things I've ever done. I have a list of about 3 or 4 of the hardest things I've ever done, but this one really took a toll. And I was asking myself, because I have very strong will, if this is this hard for me, how could anyone else do this who doesn't have a strong will? Because willpower runs out eventually. I'm not sure I could recommend the program I used. It was the body ecology diet. It did work. After 3 months, I started introducing things like green apples and grapefruit, but I didn't have an ounce of honey, sugar whatsoever till about a year. And my face cleared up. I had cleaner, better skin. I was more vibrant. I had energy, and all of my allergies were gone. It was incredible. Again, really difficult to do. But after I went through that process, I did not want the things I wanted before. I didn't want sugar anymore. I would look at something that I wanted before, like a piece of cake, and my body would immediately start feeling tired, like, I'm kind of sick, like bloated, and I'd be like, I don't want that. And I actually would crave things that I didn't want before, like plain yogurt, sauerkraut, green smoothies. I thought those were disgusting, and suddenly my body wanted them. So what I'm trying to say, you don't have to do it crash burn style like I did, but as you go through this program and you slowly start implementing some of these things, you will find that you're not having to withdraw or force yourself not to eat certain things or do certain things that you want, because you're going to get to the point where you don't want them, because you're going to be a different person. And that's just the truth. So I want you to hang on to that hope that doesn't have to be hard and horrific. It was a little hard and horrific for me, but I was learning. I had very little direction at the time, and I was doing the best that I could with the information that I had. I hope that this program will help you a little slowly and steadily get to that point, and a little more gracefully. But when you do, and you get on the other side, you'll stop craving things like sugar and sweets and chips, and you'll start craving the things that your body actually wants and needs. And that's a miracle in and of itself. Our bodies, our minds, our spirits, they are amazing. We just have to uncover them a little bit. And I want you to remember that you can eat whatever you want, but that you might want to choose better options because you want a better life. And that in realizing that I can have that, I don't want you to ever look at something and say, oh, I can't have that. Jennifer says I can't have that. Or I can't have that. That's not good for me. get that idea out of your head. You can have it. You are choosing to eat something else, or to consume something else, or to drink something else because you want to. You want the results, the long-term results, and even the immediate results that you're going to have as a result. And I want you to remember that. It's not that you can't, you can. You're just choosing something better. As Maya Angelou says, do the best you can until you know better. Then when you know better, do better. Maya Angelou is so awesome. I love her. With that said, thank you again for joining me today. My name is Jennifer Stirling-Campbell, and you're listening to the Overcome Depression podcast. If you are new to this podcast, please go watch all of the hashtag introduction videos first, and then consider downloading the Overcome Depression workbook. Links in the description. The content in this podcast is based on my own personal beliefs, is for informational purposes only, and is not intended to substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Please refer to the full legal disclaimer in the description.